Good morning. How are you? Welcome. So, thank you for joining me. I've got Rain on the Verboten. I don't know what episode this is. Episode 5. I'm on a blitz, so let's do this. Um, but I'm very excited to talk to Rain. Thank you for joining us. You may have seen in the comments that you need to behave yourselves, okay? I'm just saying that as a blanket rule, just because I'm not trying to create safe spaces, so to speak, but just don't be a dickhead, okay? So let's talk to Rain, shall we? All right. Hello, Rain, the person who I would pay to have read bedtime stories to me every single day. Oop. We got you. Hello. Oh, can't hear you. Hang on.
There we go.
There you go. There we go. It wouldn't be a live stream. It wouldn't be a live stream without some sort of technical issue.
Right as
I'd be more worried. I don't know if you heard what I first said.
I totally did not.
I said Rain is the person that I would absolutely pay to read me stories. Oh. Your voice is like caramel, and it's just soothing and calm. I was just like, everything. Anyway, so tell us about you, Rain. Why are you forbidden?
I'm someone who's transitioning, who holds controversial opinions that I consider sort of realistic, but apparently they are apparently that's sort of offensive nowadays. So some people don't quite appreciate them, but that's their loss. And I'm
so you're rational.
I wouldn't diagnose myself that way, but I would like to think that I at least attempt to be so.
That's something that I've actually found quite funny, is this idea that somehow at some point I ended up being one of the rational people. It's like, fuck me. How did this happen? Right? How did I end up being like more sane than all of Twitter?
Yeah, well, when it sort of gets to the point where people think it's a character description to list nothing but a bunch of mental disabilities in their bio, that's sort of a little bit of a telling sign as to the kind of people you're dealing with.
It is. I've been wanting to, this is something that I've been doing in my spare time, but I've been wanting to put into a pie chart, which means putting the data into a spreadsheet manually. But the responses to J.K. Rowling's tweets, but broken down by demographic, whether there's pronouns in their bio, whether you can ascertain their gender or sex out of it, and see if there's any meaningful insight from that. I've been wanting to do this. I have all these ideas, right? But it would be interesting to see how many, like the proportion of pronouns in bio to the abuse, whether there is actually a relationship between those two things.
I would suspect there
gut feel.
Probably a high degree of correlation there.
Anyway, so tell us about you, how you ended up here with me today. Not literally today, but how, a little bit of your journey, starting wherever you want to start. And
God. Okay, let's see.
I will ask questions as needed.
I guess largely it's, for me at least, like as far back as I can remember, it would have been around, I think about 6 years old. I ended up making the mistake of telling my father that I thought God had put me in the wrong body, and that didn't go over well. I sort of grew up in like a biblical literalist cult, and
oh wow.
Yeah, trans wasn't even a thing we knew about. basically we didn't socialize with anyone outside of the church circle. Completely homeschooled. The only reason to be talking to like someone who wasn't part of things was to be witnessing to them, kind of thing. We didn't go anywhere without adult supervision. Homeschooling was actually a Mennonite curriculum out of the States, so
Wow.
I'm sort of an odd mix of imperial and metric when it comes to a lot of things. but yeah,
Goodness me.
I got my first rifle when I was 6 years old, so
There's pluses and
I know how to shoot. I've got wilderness survival training for the end times, but
well, you're doing better than me. What's your toilet paper situation like? Is it good?
oh, we have all the toilet paper. We didn't even need to buy any.
Did you expect the toilet paper thing?
I'm
going to remind everybody in a year what happened. Everyone's pretending like that did not happen. They're pretending that it didn't happen, and it happened, and I'm going to remind everybody.
See, the funny thing is, I live in a fairly small town, so like even when it was at its height, like we never like the stores always had stock because like
okay.
Well, one of the things where I live, there's only like one bridge coming into the town, and the only other way into the town is like an extra like 5-hour drive, and that's got like 20 bridges along the way. So if there was ever an earthquake or anything like that, we would be cut off for a long ass time. So a lot of the people out here always just, have some stockpile, know, it's that small town self-sufficiency kind of thing. So
it's very similar.
Really a rush.
Yeah, also it's because I live in Western Australia, which is like very large landmass and a lot of space. So in mining towns and stuff. But my mum has like 5 freezers full of stuff. Like that was just normal because that not now. I mean, now she lives in the city, so that's a bit weird. But when she lived rural, she had like 5 freezers, and they would get like rained in for days and days and days at a time. So she's always been ready for the apocalypse. So
we've got a large chest style freezer. We've got a stand up freezer. We've got at least 2 fridges with freezers. We stay fairly well prepared.
Yeah, wow, that's a lot. Yeah, I have a chest freezer, and I went through a stage where I now have a vegetable garden that I walked away from 3 weeks ago and got bored with. And every so often a radish will pop up, or like something will be like, I've got a radish, look at me. I'm not going to forget that happened. It happened. We all got crazy, and then everything kind of
went back to quasi-normal at least.
Yeah. Well, in Australia, it's a bit different because we're all but eradicated. I mean, we're having some spikes, but it's we're pretty much back to normal. Is it the same in your town? Do you just have a normal existence at the moment? Well, relatively normal.
Relatively normal, yeah. It's not too much of a thing.
Anyway. So growing up in a Christian, in that environment, as a young gender non-conforming boy, what was that like for you? I watched another video, and you can just share what you're comfortable sharing, where the distress that you felt, that you wanted to remove your own penis as a kid. Like, I can't imagine that level of distress. What does that feel like?
It's almost like, the best I can describe it is like if you like woke up tomorrow and you had like a fully functional third arm growing out of your chest. Like, you might be perfectly fine and normal and work and do everything, but it's like, this isn't supposed to be here. And it's like, just get it away. That's not supposed to be there. That's not part of my body. Like,
like, because I just tried, I think for me, a lot of it, I can relate a little bit, I think, but I don't. Oh, at the same time, I just don't think I can. You know what I mean? Like I sit there and go, I've had lots of surgeries. I'm on the autistic spectrum. You know what I mean? There's varying things where I've gone, well, I can understand what it's like to not fit in. I can understand, body issues. I can, but I sit there and I go, it must, I just empathize with just how difficult it must be to grow up as a young, effeminate man, especially in that situation.
I definitely learned how to fake it after I made the mistake of telling my dad. I would get hit if he thought I was walking too feminine. So, like, anything that could be potentially perceived as effeminate, it was, you watch yourself at all times. You watch how you walk, how you talk. Like, I was forcing my voice lower before I even hit puberty. Like,
So did you overcompensate in terms of, like you said about wildlife skills, and did you go full sort of like masculine, or was it just enough to keep your dad placated?
whenever anyone could see me, I would say I definitely overcompensated. The rest of the time, it was more just like I prefer to be alone and, like, play
Just
a computer game or anything that doesn't involve having to, like, be around people and put out that energy and constantly have to watch everything I'm doing. So,
yeah. I can relate to that a little bit because, as a girl who never fit in with other girls, it's exhausting. Like having to
yeah.
pretend to be someone that you're not, right? Pretending to be like Barbie dolls, and when you just really just want to be, pretending all of these things. And I was like, I just want to read books and I just want to exist and just be smart and read books and do all those things. I don't want to have to. I didn't understand girls. Like I don't understand girls still to this day. All of the feminists out there, I don't understand you. I understand the issue, but I don't understand the bitchy stuff. I just don't. I go, what? But it's just, so I think I can understand it a little bit, right? Again, I'm trying to relate. I can relate on a sort of little level with these things. But
I would say really the hardest part for me was like basically the way I was brought up. Like, even just being like homosexual meant you were possessed by an evil spirit kind of thing, like sexual deviancy, anything like that. So for me, I didn't want to live, but at the same time, like, I was brought up with like a real fire and brimstone hell, suffering for eternity. Like, I was literally like, I had a phobia of fire to the point where like I couldn't even stand to watch a movie if it had a fireplace in it, kind of thing. So
So did you believe this stuff, or was it something that you did? Did you,
oh
in
yeah.
terms of faith, did you believe? So you actually
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Like, for
Okay.
me, it was very much the kind of thing where it's like I tried to be good enough to not go to hell, but at the same time, like, I knew, like, with what I am, it doesn't matter. Like, there's no way I'll ever be good enough. Like, obviously, I was born to go to hell. So it was,
That
I
must be
wanted to die and was terrified of dying. So it turned into the kind of thing where it's just like, well, I've got to try and live as long as I can and not die, because when I die, everything will just get worse.
goodness me. Like that's a head fuck for a kid. That's an
Oh,
absolute head fuck.
definitely.
Do you talk to your parents now?
My dad is dead, which, good riddance. Since he's died, my mom, like, she's still pretty conservative Christian, but like she still
Is she
calls me
mellow?
like, oh yeah, like she was never this most hardcore kind of person.
So
Like,
she
she's
went
always
along with
been,
it?
yeah, like, it was the kind of abusive relationship where like I've literally heard my dad tell my mom like, if you ever tried to leave me, I will find you and I will burn the house down with you and the kids inside of it, kind of thing. So, and
Goodness me.
and that was not like empty words. That was definitely the
Mm,
kind of thing that he would do. So,
yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. So
but
obviously, at some point, you came out as gay to your mum first.
no, actually, the first time I came out as anything was when I came out as trans.
How did she react to this
um,
news?
it it wasn't really all that big of a deal, really. Like, I didn't come out
Mums know.
aggressively or anything like that. Like, but I
Mums know
came
their
out
kids.
I
That's
came out
one
to my
thing.
siblings first, and like I was working up to coming out to my mom, and one of my sisters almost let it slip. She was all like, "So has he talked to you about the thing yet?" kind of thing. She didn't
Mm.
say what it was, but my mom's two guesses at the time were, well, either he's dying or he's going to start wearing women's clothing.
And she was right on one of those. Yeah.
She was like,
Well, I
gotta
suppose if
do.
you're a mother and Wayne, yeah. Oh gosh. So, what's your relationship like now? Is it?
Honestly, the me and other siblings, we get along really well. They've all been incredibly supportive, and
Mm,
it's like several of them who have been around more have been like, it's just so great to see you like actually happy and you know.
yeah.
um, with mom, she has ideological problems with it, obviously, but
Yeah.
like I'm still he and my birth name to her, but at the same time, like she's gone out and bought me like an entire set of makeup. So
Okay. So she's showing her love in ways that.
yeah, like
Yeah.
she's not like, like politically correct accepting kind of thing, but she still loves me.
That's
She still
good though.
wants the best for me, and like back around Christmas, she actually took me aside and was, like, I don't know about all of this kind of stuff, but like watching you grow up, I had to watch you go from like someone who was bubbly and full of life and just like retreat into like this hard shell. And I thought that person had been gone forever. And now I'm finally seeing that person again. So,
Yeah.
but
That's
it,
great.
it,
And
it
that's what
helped.
mums want. That's what
Oh,
mums want for their kids is to see the light come on in their kid.
oh,
I think that
definitely.
and seeing your child's light go out, especially if you're in an abusive relationship, I
Yeah.
think that seeing things affect your kids and then seeing them come back to life, I think that that as a mum, that's probably the best thing that you can see.
Oh,
So
it
yeah,
made me so happy when she said that. It was just like, oh, I get to
yeah.
give you back something that you lost from then. Like
Mm.
it was
So
like,
did you leave home young as well, or have you?
um, I ended like I ended up getting kicked out at 20. It was very much none of us had any idea how the world worked kind of thing. It was,
Mm,
it was very much, like brought up with the, you're going to be here forever kind of thing.
wow. And then suddenly kicked out.
Yeah, so I
Wow.
ended up on the streets for a while. Did a lot of couch
Goodness me.
surfing and
Yeah.
eventually
Wow.
found a bad crowd, but it was better than the streets. But
Well, yeah. Well, all the good crowds hang out on the streets.
oh,
So.
definitely. Oh,
Oh,
I
oh,
I ended up
goodness me.
doing a lot of drinking and drugs for a while. It was
So was there a
definitely
turn? Oh, sorry.
oh,
So what was your turning point?
um as far as like getting out of like the drugs and stuff.
Yeah, those. Well, it's deliberately open ended, but So the timeline for you, because this is quite recent, your transition is, you're still very early in your
Yeah,
transition.
I'm just over 9 months at this point. So
Mm,
yeah,
So,
um basically after being on the streets, and I obviously ended up with, like drinking and doing a lot of drugs and stuff. Ended up overdosing, had 4 near-death experiences in the night. And the like they were
so you hit
quite
bottom.
interesting experiences, but the second one was the one that really got to me, kind of thing, because it was like I sort of like flew out of my body, and like I could see myself, but it was just like a undistinguished shape of like this like black tar kind of thing. And it was
Oh
just
my
like
goodness.
darkness and depression kind of thing. And then like as I kept zooming out, it was like you could see the people around you, and it was like that tar spread out and infected them. And then like it just kept zooming out, and at every step of the zoom out you could just see that darkness spreading until it finally zoomed out to where you could see like the entire world, and it was just all black and dark. And it was very much
That's horrifying.
this is the
Yeah.
effect you're having on the world with how you're acting and how you're being. So
Was that you? Was that you losing consciousness?
yeah, yeah, that was the brain hitting its last few ticks, I guess.
Goodness me.
But that was one that I remembered really strongly, like after it was
Mm,
all over. So after that, I quit everything cold turkey and ended up
yeah.
contacting some family friends and moved up island, and
Mm.
ended up
And
working on a farm for about a year. And for the first bit of it, it was the kind of thing where like I'd do like half an hour of work and I'd be puking and hallucinating. And but
what,
so,
from the come down, or is that
well,
detoxing, or just
yeah, like I,
everything?
I I did like a lot of LSD and stuff like that, and some of that
Okay.
gets stored in your fats. So suffice to say, as I
Ah,
was working, I would get mini highs as like the fat started to get
I
burnt.
didn't know that.
And
Yeah.
it was the kind of thing where
Oh,
I'd be like down on my knees puking, and it would be like look like maggots coming out and shit like that. So getting
oh my
clean
gosh.
was getting clean was quite a trip.
See, this is not the Joe Rogan experience. This is the real truth about
Yeah.
hallucinogenics, right? Fuck me. See, I have no interest in that sort of thing because I'm the child of an addict of sort of things as well. So I've just have not really any interest in that sort of stuff.
My dad was a
But far
recovered
out.
heroin addict.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
But
yeah.
he was already recovered before we came into any into the scene in any
Mm.
way, so we didn't have a lot of
So, like all recovering addicts, generally speaking, they're very easy targets for extreme cults.
oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh,
it was
that's
lovely.
yeah.
But yeah.
Goodness me. So at what point did you realize that you were trans? It seems like you always knew that, but was there a point where were you sort of distracting yourself with drugs and all that stuff along the way? When did you decide, okay, I'm not gay, I'm trans, or you
Well,
know,
I've accepted that I'm gay, so I'm totally okay with that, but I'm
yeah,
also trans.
yeah,
And
you know what I mean? Like, yeah, yeah,
when I say
I,
homosexual, I mean male attracted to
yeah,
males.
yes.
But
We need to
apparently
clarify
nowadays,
this.
that's a distinction you have to make, because people see trans and homosexual and they think, oh, you're a transbian. No, bitch, that ain't how it works.
Oh, so so did you have friends or a community around this stuff? So how did you go ahead,
Um,
walk me through how did you have you done this all on your own?
yes.
Or did you connect with people locally? Did you like how do you find a community?
I don't have a community. I'm doing it completely unsupported by anything LGBT. Like, I avoid all the
Mm.
support groups, everything like that. I have said some stuff online that I know people who go to local groups have seen. So, but
Okay.
basically, the way it ended up going, like, obviously, like, with my background, I didn't even know, like, transition was a thing. Like,
Mm.
I grew up in the kind of atmosphere where, like, our Hardy Boy books and Nancy Drew books, parents would go through and, like, black out anything about, like, dating or anything like that. Like, it was that kind of insulated.
Wow.
So I didn't find out about transition till, like, probably till I was about 25-ish.
Mm. And when
And
was that? How old are you now?
I'm 34 now. So
Oh, okay. So
I
9 years.
started
Okay.
transitioning 3 months before my 34th birthday.
Wow.
So
So
yeah, I'm a bit
so
late.
between yeah, no, but finding out. So walk me through that 9 years. So what it took 9 years? Was there therapy and was it what was the
Oh,
process
at that
for you?
point, like, by the time I found out, I had started doing, like, I, I'm very much not the kind of person to leap without looking. So I had already started doing, like, a lot of work on myself, whether it be meditation or other forms of therapy, like dealing with, like, my traumas and stuff like that. And, like, when I found out about transition, like, part of me knew immediately, like, yeah, this is me. But at the same time, like, I ended up, like, I did get involved with the online community, and I'm a I I'm very much the kind of person who likes to know as much as possible about something before I jump into it. So,
Mm.
I basically got involved doing, like, I was researching things, always looking for information, collecting information, resources, stuff like that, that I could, like, provide to people who were, like, looking for information, and, doing, like, basically, functioning as a sorta impromptu therapist kind of thing. And, like, there were a lot of times where I'd be up till, like, 2 in the morning, like, talking someone through their latest bout of suicidal ideation or stuff like that. And I was
Mm.
I was seriously considering that, like, this can actually be what's right for me probably about 5 years ago. But that ended up being right about the time where, like, people started, like, like, the communities exploded, and, like, a lot of the communities went from, like, a few hundred people to thousands in what seemed overnight. And the messaging started changing, so, like, I sort of stepped back for a little bit trying to figure out what everything was going on. But at the point where, like, people started pushing the idea that dysphoria isn't a mental disorder, like,
Mm.
my thing was, like, collecting information on resources and stuff like that. So obviously it's like, hey, this might not be a good idea. Like, we're freaking
Mm.
poor. Like, we need medical coverage in order to do what we need to do. Like, don't go pushing the idea that this isn't a medical condition that actually needs to be insured and covered. Like, you're going to screw people over.
Mm.
And
So your
probably,
participation in that community shifted as well. So you saw what you've seen, which is what a lot of my audience have seen, is the woke invasion of their community. So whether it's the knitting community, whether it's comedy, whether like it's just an invasion of wokes,
oh yeah,
right? And it happened around 2014, right?
yeah.
Where the Tumblr invaded every other online community. And would you say that happened to the online trans community as well?
Oh, definitely. Like I was saying, I was in groups that had, like, a few hundred people in them, like, just little open
Mm.
groups, and, like, no one was interested before then. Like, the people who were in
Mm.
there were people who were genuinely, like, questioning or seriously interested in it and trying to
Mm.
figure out their issues. And then all of a sudden it went from like a few hundred people to literally in some cases like 5,000 people from 200. Like over the course
Wow.
of less than a month. Like it was an
Yeah.
absolute explosion and they just got literally overrun. And like
What about the A word? So did you find that there was the autogynophiles?
that was a big
What was that a separate invasion or just another opportunity, I suppose?
they were always there and they were very front and center, at least at the point where I started getting into it. And that was
And
something.
obvious?
Oh,
Is there because I've
not
noticed a
nearly as
difference.
blatant as they are nowadays, but there were very much, like that was one of the things that I really had a lot of trouble getting over and coming to terms with things was like the Blair Whites and, like the passable, good looking people, they weren't represented, like most of what you saw was more like Yaniv level, and it's like, oh, I've got a
The
wig on.
lapis.
Aren't I
Yeah.
beautiful? And that was a really hard
The
image.
twirly twirlies.
Yeah, like that was hard for me to get past because, like, especially with my
Yeah.
background, like with all of
Yeah.
everything like this being portrayed as nothing but a fetish and perversion and so on, like those people were front and center, at least at the time where I got involved in the community. So like it was really hard to
So
get
did
past
that
that image. But
so did that add to your did that not to use as another loaded word, but did that sort of trigger some of your trauma around and make you sort of back away at any point where you started to,
um
or did you just get angry? Like I know Blair White just gets mad at things. It's like you guys are larpers. Get out of my community. You're making us look bad.
well, the
Stop it.
thing is for
Like,
me, like by the time I got into the community, those people were already very much there. Like so
and
it was
dominant.
they were definitely, you didn't see too many passable trans people. Like most people at least put in some kind of effort, but the same people who are like going absolutely crazy now were definitely present. They were just a little more subdued and didn't quite put it out there as blatantly, but they were very much a large part of the community at the point where I got into it. But that was
Is it?
really like because like I would look at them and it's like, well, if that's the best that's possible, like why would I even want to try this? Like I'm like it feels like it should be right for me, but everywhere I look it's just men in dresses and poorly fashioned ones at that. Like,
The umbrella.
yeah. But I'm I like I had finally gotten past that imagery and realized that it was possible to, like look reasonable at least in transition. And that was right around when like the stuff about like it not being a mental disorder started coming out. And when I questioned that, over the course of less than 2 weeks, I got banned out of every single group that I was involved in. I
Was this
got
on Reddit or Facebook or
mostly on
wherever?
Facebook at the time,
Facebook.
but
Okay.
eh, they shared things around so quickly. Like it was just
Yeah.
like, and like the worst part is like people I had like been acting as a therapist for literally years were like messaging me going like, fuck, you're all kinds of things, we don't ever want to talk to you again. And it's just like, please, like you're alive because I talked to you, like you're just gonna cut me off like this. But then to top it all off, I ended up getting doxxed. And I had people calling me at home threatening to out me as trans to like my family and work and stuff like that. So
So trans allies threatening to out you as trans to your.
yeah. It's like after that I was cut off from
Can I just say that the
everything.
TERFs don't do this? The TERFs
Yeah.
don't dox people. The TERFs don't. Just saying.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of it on the side, but suffice to say, after that experience, like I just right back into that closet, doors completely
Mm.
slammed, like, no, fuck
That
this.
must.
This is all utter insanity. They're going to completely destroy my life. Like, I am out. But obviously, I didn't manage to stay in the closet long enough.
No. Mm.
But it definitely delayed things for me by quite a bit because it was like you find the community and it's like the first time that you like, especially for someone like me, it was the first time where it's like you have a family. Like
Yeah.
there's people who can understand you and sympathize, and then to just get
You finally
completely
feel
cut off
seen.
like that. And like,
So, did you see growing up in a cult, you become, I imagine, highly sensitive to certain types of like behaviors? Have you observed some of that behavior
oh yeah.
in this the whole all of this
I,
stuff, right?
for myself, I say it was like the weirdest experience I've ever gone through, having grown up in a cult that already existed, and
Mm.
then to go through watching one form was it was
Mm.
fascinating but
Yeah.
terrible at the same time.
The social justice cult is one of the most fascinating phenomenon um, is to like from the internet. Like the first thing I said this, I think with Holly, which is basically, isn't it funny that humans, the first thing we do, we get the internet, we get something great like the internet, and we build a church, we build a cult, and we build tribes. It's like playing Age of Empires. It's crazy, you
Well,
know.
the way I
And
put
it's
it, like
humans are funny.
we've started becoming more secular as a society, but we never put
Mm,
the time in to understand like the instincts and such that
yeah.
led to the formations of religion. So
Mm. Those base impulses. Yeah.
yeah, like I see a lot of it as, like we don't understand the instincts that led to it. So by
Mm,
getting rid of religion, you got rid of where those instincts normally channel themselves into. So then they begin channeling themselves into other forms of tribalism. And
mm.
we
It's
we we,
extraordinary.
we went from theological religion to secular religions.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's and also that Twitter and social media pour kerosene on this,
Oh,
right? So
definitely.
every argument is amplified 1,000 times, right?
Oh,
And everything
100%.
that happens at scale, happens at just fast, it's great velocity, and so it's one of those things. As an internet person, you sit there and you go, "Look, I really should have seen this happening," but
It's amazing.
it just snuck up on even people who work in marketing and this stuff that I do, right? I sat there going, "Oh, here's how you build your own tribal cult." Like I have a presentation from 2010. Here's how, and I just was, it's like I had a presentation, how to build a cult, a guide for like business owners on marketing, right? And I thought it was funny and witty. Turns out that I was like, it's like, well, I should have seen that. I should have actually seen the natural conclusion, but I didn't, right? But it's
Yeah.
just funny. But anyway, sorry. So it's just funny. It's just weird and cool. The thing is that once you get into the gender wars or you get into the culture wars more broadly, you can't
Mm.
stop. It's so fascinating. No TV can compete with this ever.
Oh no, like it's
There's
just
comedy in it too.
constant dopamine hits for everyone.
But it's actually also funny. Well, I
Oh
think
yeah.
that it's just messed up funny that people could be so stupid,
Tickles
and
the
just
old friend
how
from
the
Schadenfreude.
stupid. Yeah, but also how something so dumb could go so mainstream. That's what it's like. It's the fact that we are having this podcast or show or whatever the fuck it is. But where you are saying something that's perfectly reasonable, as a perfectly reasonable human being who said, I need help with this. I think I need medical care. And you are now a Nazi.
I started out
It's
doing this
absurd.
to
We live in
stream
Monty
video
Python.
games. And somehow I've stopped streaming video games and I talk about trans shit nonstop. Like,
well, that's what's happened. You get dragged in. That's what happened to Rose of Dawn. They just started being the trans person that speaks, and now you've just got a built-in audience. It's good. I think it's actually fantastic. I love the fact that we get to talk. We get to talk and tell each other stories, because I learn like something that I struggle to relate to and understand. And also a reminder to the gender criticals that there's always a person behind some of the, you know what I mean? Like the Twitter account,
definitely.
there's a person, a feeling person with history and a story. And I always try to keep, as I've always said, the personal can be political, but the political is not always personal. But we need to remember that there are people behind it, right? And it's like not treat trans people like an avatar, like literally like a fucking anime one. But there's so many different stories and individuals with different stories and different pathways, right?
I've just got to say, when people are running around yelling and screaming that trans people are mutilated, perverted fetish freaks, like, that's not going to get anyone listening to your side.
No. And I think that's the problem. And I've been going through this journey as well. And I had a bit of a rant to my husband the other day, which I said, from now on, I'm never going to defend the words of anyone else.
Yeah.
I will try to influence their opinion, but it's like, well, because this is something that, like, men do a lot, like MRAs and those sorts of people, or anyone, right, is that they hang you for the sins of everyone else in your movement, right? And it's like, no, well, did I use those words? Did I express that view? Well, then I'm not why am I held to account for the views of Janice Raymond, right? I was like, well, no, I don't agree with her. Like, I'm not going to sit and defend something that I don't agree with or that I didn't even say. And I think that's the same thing. I think we need to stop seeing I'm just tribes in general, joining teams, and it's like, I'm on Team Human, and I am women-centered because I believe that there is a real threat to women's spaces at the moment. But I do think we can come up with creative solutions. If we can talk to each other, we can find common ground, right?
Definitely.
And it's just frustrating that it comes back to toilets, toilets and fucking cake.
Oh my God, like, seriously, like
toilet paper, toilets. What's the fucking deal with toilets and toilet paper?
But it actually sort of brings me back to a conversation I was having in DMs earlier, and someone was talking about, like, your followers are mostly rad fams, and like talking about like Magdalene Burns, and I had to be all like, well, I've never actually like watched any videos she's made, or like I know basically nothing about her. And it's like they're going like, oh, like she has some good stuff, but then there's other videos I've seen her in where she seems like genuinely hateful kind of thing. And
yeah, that's everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody is, the body of their work is not perfect.
But they've sort of got this idea that, like, because someone's, like venerating Magdalene or whatever, like they agree with all their shit. And it's like, I'm not going to sit there and like try and assume what someone believes or anything like that simply because they're associated with some label. Like, I try and interact with everyone as an individual. And if they bring up one of those ideas, I'll deal with it as an individual idea and judge it on its own merits as how it's presented. Like, I'm not going to sit there and go like, oh, you're a TERF, so therefore obviously you believe all of this. Like, what's the point? It's like saying someone's a Christian. It's like,
Yeah.
That's actually the
There's a
example.
wide range there.
Yeah, that's actually
Yeah.
the example I used when he's like,
Yeah.
but you said a lot of your followers are rad femmes. So it's like, yeah, but most of my followers are pretty moderate. Like, I might as well
Yeah.
just say, like, I've got a lot of Christian followers. Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean, like, let's face it, the fire and brimstone biblical literalists are highly unrepresentative of your average Christian. Like,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? You have people who are, loosely affiliated, go to church once a year, right up to Westboro Baptist, or like cult bullshit, right? And it's like, well, and gender is the same, feminist is the same, are the same. There's purity people. And again, I think this is also the collision of scholarship versus sort of activism
yeah,
and policy. So there's three areas, right? So a Marx scholar, for example, would be focused on being purely Marxist, making sure that things fit within that model. Okay, that's a scholarship. It has no place in the real world, in policy. Because I'm a policy person. So policy is about consensus. So what you do is you take the feminist view, you take the radical feminist view, you take the right-wing view, and you synthesize it and find a way to live together. That's democracy. That's pluralism, right? That's what it is. Multiple groups compete. I prefer to not say compete. I like to say that it's more like consensus, finding consensus, right? Finding a way to live together. Right? Imagine the Big Brother house times 7 billion, right? It's fucking hard.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, but there's the activists, which and when you're in a political party, there's people who are policy people and there are people who are activists. Activists tend to be more in the scholarship and purity side of things, which is we only hold this is the radical feminist view, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that it translates to policy and law, and you need to find there's ways to find, and I tend to be more in that policy, finding a way to everyone to live together. That said, I hold Marxist Scott in the sandbox of brain. I'm saying listen. I've said I'm a Marxist in the sheets and a capitalist in the streets. Okay, that's what I'm saying. But I'm just saying that Marxist is a useful lens as a scholar to critique capitalism, right?
Oh yeah.
But it doesn't mean that it works. Radical feminism is absolutely about the critique of patriarchy, right?
Yeah.
And about that, okay, about the rights of women, the history of women, and that. That said, when it goes batshit, you see what happens, right? Which is reversal of this. I like men. I love men, okay? I've created two very nice ones, okay?
I'm
sort of boys.
Generally nervous and slightly terrified about men as a group, but I like individual men.
But and that's where a lot of this confusion sort of happens, I think, which is that people confuse the theoretical sandbox of ideas with the real world. And that's where I think this has gone wrong, because we've got a generation of kids who didn't grow up. They can't tell the difference between fiction and the real world. Oh, yeah. They're cyborgs, right? So what they believe the hero's journey is real life, not narrative, right? And not made up. I'm saying I've seen this in my own kids, that inability to just really, it's so, and social media has just poured kerosene on this whole thing. But that's why you can't that's why there's laws against advertising to kids, because they can't psychologically process what's true versus what's false and what's a lie and what's not. That's why those laws exist in marketing, right? And it's just interesting to see all of this grow up and collide in spectacular fashion.
Well, the thing I noticed fairly early on was like I would actually put in the time to read some of the theory that was behind what was being spouted. And it's you would read the theory and it's okay, that's actually interesting ideas and things to think about. But then you look at what's actually being spouted on social media, and it's a bastardized, simplified version that loses everything interesting about the original thought that went into it. And it's
Yeah.
just like
It strips,
oh,
yeah. It's such a soup, and most of the people who are spouting this shit haven't read the theory. That's where I think, because I went through a similar thing with the feminist communities, like you did with the trans communities, right?
yeah.
Which was that I saw this take a 45-degree turn into Crazyville. It just went, like, just suddenly there was a Tumblr, and then Gamergate hit and all that. I'm talking to someone who was on the other side of Gamergate later in the week, which is
Which
very weird because
side?
that was the wrong side.
Oh, the good guys.
The man side.
God,
Ooh.
I still hate Anita and that crew to this day.
Yeah,
Don't
so I'm
at me.
talking to Grimm. I don't know if you follow James, who wrote the book on Gamergate. It's a great book.
No.
But because I'm an old nerd. I'm an old nerd who like escaped into the internet because I didn't understand girls and I didn't understand women and all their complex crap and social things. So I existed on the internet. It was my escape where I could find like-minded people. Very similar thing. And then all these fucking Instagram influencers in their bikinis and marketers and all these people just crashed our space, right? And so,
Yeah.
and I know that history with Gamergate where all these these people just, the mean girls from high school, it was all high school all over again. I know you didn't go to high school, but I'm just saying that mean girl stuff. The popular kids just came and crashed our fucking space, right?
Oh, 100%.
And took it over and then started dictating what the rules were to us. So that's what Twitter did and Facebook, which was that we had a safe space. It was free speech. There was an understanding that it was fun and free and all ideas were valid and you could be anonymous. And then Twitter and Facebook and all these corporations came in and started telling us what the rules were on our own thing. And Gamergate was at the crux of that. So, but anyway, that's another rant. But they crashed our space.
No niche can ever survive popularity.
No, absolutely not. And that's yes, well, that's true. But maybe it's just because I grew up, I'm Gen X, and it's just like I got that Gen X bone, which is like, no, sellouts.
Hey,
I'm
a metalhead, like.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, so you get it then. It's all the alt community.
I think metal is one of the few communities that survived SJW attacks. So.
Oh, it hasn't though. Did you see that Magic the Gathering can't survive it?
Oh my god.
They fucking cancelled Magic the Gathering. I mean, how that's like the most fucking like yeah. It's gonna they're just what the fuck? Fucking normies. Fuck normies. I love you normies, but fuck off. Get off my internet. Can we all just agree to just go back to the dark, just disappear into the dark web or something? Create our own new internet.
This heart is for all the losers and weirdos and every single non-normie out there.
Absolutely. Fuck me. And the thing is that I was a normie, and not a normie, but I had to sort of exist in the normie world. So I kind of, worked in marketing and agency stuff. So I kind of speak that language, but I'm not. Like, I just sat there and I go, you guys are fucking idiots. Like, how do you not know don't feed the trolls, man. Like, do you not know that rule?
Oh my god, if everyone on social media understood that concept, the discourse would be so different. Because right now,
I don't get any problems.
Extreme, and they flip out on it, and it's like that weird little take from some loser with like 50 followers all of a sudden has like 5,000 retweets, and it's like, you do realize they're literally a nobody. Like, you can ignore them and no one will ever hear what they have to say.
Yeah It's really funny. It is actually very funny, but to see the collision of it is really just like alternative culture, alt culture, counterculture, sorry, was the word that I was looking for, clashing with normies, right? It's a story since the beginning of time. Like Billy Connolly, the comedian Billy Connolly, where he talks about Christian rock.
It sounds
and then he's like,
vaguely familiar.
Yeah, and he does this thing, he's like, Christian rock. He's like, it's not for you. It's not for you. Rock music is not for you. He's like, I am the devil and I want to fuck your mother. It's like, that's what it's going to be.
I literally
You would like that.
I literally grew up with anything that wasn't a hymn. It was literally the devil's music. So when I discovered,
how did your parents feel about guitars?
Acoustic was okay. Nothing with any distortion.
You don't plug it in. Plug it in. Electricity is wow.
If now fancy this, I went from hymns. The first band I discovered was Samael, which I discovered the first Hellboy movie. I pirated it because we had but we were homeschooled, but at that point we had switched to doing online distance education, so we had to have a computer, we had to have internet. So I built my first computer when I was 5. So once he gave me the internet, my dad thought he knew computers,
but he didn't.
I grew up with computers.
I love it. Yeah.
So
I love that. Anything where the young kids get around with this. Yeah.
But suffice to say, I watched the first Hellboy movie, and this was right about the time I think where Napster was just really becoming a thing.
Yeah.
So I was bored. So I decided to search on Napster for the name of the bad demon thing from the first Hellboy movie, which was Samael. Turns out there's a symphonic black metal band named Samael.
Yeah. So you found that.
Okay. Literally, the first song I listened to was called "Take Me to the Baphomet's Throne." So I started.
And you were that's it. That was naughty to you, was it? It was just. It was your secret.
Whoa, wow. So
there's a
I
world
started
out there.
And then slowly worked my way back to symphonic metal and the classics and stuff like that. And now I even listen to some pop and some country rap.
You know what? I'm just filled with warm and fuzzies at the idea that what the internet has enabled. The freedoms that. I'm just saying, right? I know that it's hilarious that we need to protect that freedom of discovery. But the problem is that kids are obviously vulnerable, but at the same time, right? That's amazing to me. That's why I want to try and create an internet that allows both of those things to coexist somehow, and I haven't quite figured it out yet.
I find it funny when you get the middle-aged parents who are complaining about how bad the internet is and how the kids are being exposed to all this stuff. It's please, when I was a kid,
we didn't have a block button, man.
I was literally on a website on how to fold paper airplanes, and I ended up on a hardcore porn site.
Do you remember Rotten.com?
Vaguely, yeah.
Where they used to have corpses and people motorcycle accidents and dead people thing, but I'm just saying that was just when you're in the you would just land on these things and you go, oh. Now the thing is, what we need to do is not normalize that. That's the thing, right?
I was gaming online during the time period. The cool thing to do was find the most freaky, weird shit you could find on the internet and send it to all of your friends. So, so I grew up seeing some shit, literally sometimes.
Oh, one of my favorite, my favorite old websites, ratemypoo.com. Which was basically hot or not, the 1 to 10 rating thing for chicks. But they took that engine, but it was people taking photos of the poo in their toilet and people giving it a score. And I have to admit, right, there was at least a couple of times where I spent a good couple of hours genuinely considering whether it was a 6 or 7 out of 10. Because
I'm just going to say, the worst thing that happened was when they came out with link shortening services. There were so many times you'd be on a forum or something, you'd click some link, and you'd end up on frickin' Lemon Party.
Yeah. That's part of the fun. But again, I think the kids are okay. Now with gaming, my sons, My son goes on to the Minecraft, the online version, the competitions, the Minecraft things.
Okay.
And he's like, cock and balls, oh well, Nazi, cock and ball, okay. It's just, part of me is like, it shouldn't be that normal for him to see that. But at the same time, I go, remember when you were on the internet? And he's okay. But what I do is I have conversations with them about this. And I go, okay, let's talk about this. Like my son does gaming YouTube videos, and he does GTA 5, and he's like, shoot. And I was like, dude, you're shooting a woman of color out of her car. He's like, I didn't see her color. I was like, dude, be very. I was like, I got to raise good white men to be conscious of the fact that they can't just go around shooting women, pulling women of colour equally. That's what I loved about Borderlands 3. Have you played Borderlands 3 yet?
A little bit.
Yeah, but you can shoot people in the face, equal opportunity. That's what it is. There's no, and I love how all the psychos have green hair in Borderlands 3. But no, but I'm just saying, like,
you got the map behind you there.
Sorry? Yeah, I do. Oh, yeah. I love that. I love it. I'm such a big Borderlands fan. But the thing I love is that they do social justice well, in the sense that representation is good in that game, generally good. They went a little bit too fucking feminist in 3, but Borderlands 2 was great. There's good representation of different archetypes. You could play whatever characters you like. Like, can we just leave it there without having it just... You get what I mean? Like, I think it's just, yeah, that pendulum that you've talked about before, where I think we're in that overcorrection zone at the moment in many ways, I think. Where, like, so
much. And
the second we stop listening to Twitter, it goes away. All of these problems go away the second that journalists stop listening to Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
And we go back to normal, like adults running things.
The problem I find really, like, especially with anything representation nowadays, is they don't develop characters who happen to be something. They make a character who has one trait. It's like, this is the trans
their
character.
Whole identity.
This is the person of color. And that is their character. And it's like, no, like, look back, like, look at the Alien movie with, like, Amanda Ripley. Like, that's representation.
Yeah.
That is an awesome, strong female character. And it's nothing about, like, her being female. It's she's a female who's an awesome character.
Yeah, and females can be awesome too without you pointing it out every 5 seconds. And I think because I worked in, like, marketing a lot with and corporate branding, and I got a weird mishmash of, like, jobs. But consulting to companies on, like, the line between tokenism, like, when did tokenism stop being a thing? Like, I remember that being an insensitive, like, being a token is worse.
Yeah.
Because it's patronizing. Like, diversity and inclusion are good things, right? It's like you're not fully defined by your, like, one trait. Oh, no. You know, like, it's like, fuck me. How did we go this? How did we take 30 years step backwards? That's what I want to know. Or are we just old? Are we old people who don't understand the new kids today? Is that just really just life? Is that what happens?
I think the problem is that nowadays nobody understands anything.
But some things I thought how there are some things that were settled and agreed on. I'm starting to think that at some point, some dickhead is going to point out that gravity is fucking somehow fat phobic. Because the scales are fat phobic, because the gravitational forces determine that your number is higher than the others, so therefore it could be reasoned that gravity is fat phobia.
I'm just going to say gravity is very definitely 100% age phobic. Like, just think, if it wasn't for gravity, people could stay gorgeous into their 90s. Like,
exactly. Yeah. Cellular regeneration is age phobic. fuck me. Some things are just settled. And that's the thing. I don't know, in Australia, I'm talking about this later today. I don't know if I've got it in me to do a daily stream on top of the 2 I've got already. But hang on, I'm just adjusting my light because it got to mid-morning. Hang on. No, but I do find it kind of funny, even though I'm going to, but our government has basically said all humanities degrees, all law degrees, we're not paying for them anymore. And they've made them more expensive than medicine and engineering and shit. And it's just like, I absolutely oppose it for a different reason, which is that those arts degrees are often a pathway for people to go, into out of poverty, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then you end up with more rich kids with arts degrees, which is even worse, because poor kids with arts degrees can actually do something. Rich kids with arts degrees, this is how we got here. They're blue checks on Twitter. They're fucking morons. They're all rich kids with arts degrees, but I do find it kind of funny that the government.
Some of these people need to go and be poor for a decade. Literally live each day not knowing where your next meal is coming from, and then get back to me about a few things about life.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing. Nobody, especially when you're in that I've been at the bottom of the Maslow's pyramid my whole life, right? And I think you're very much the same. It's always about just getting through. And I'm sure for you it's magnified because I don't have this gender shit going on in all this fucking, at least I can choose not to work hard. You get what I'm saying? Okay, that is a privilege. Can I say, because we're in polite company, that is a privilege of women just don't like being abused for their privilege. But I'm just saying, I got up and spent 12 minutes getting ready this morning, running around. I'm pretty sure Syreyne spent a little bit longer than me.
Yeah.
About 3 years. Anyway.
Today, had bath, did hair, did full face makeup. Got dressed. Probably a good couple hours on everything.
Goodness me.
Told.
Yeah.
It doesn't generally take me that long, but when I'm going to be
but if you're going to
record it or something,
yeah,
you put in the time.
I don't care. No, but I sit there and it is really interesting, this representation thing, because it just needs to come up organically. It should just be I'm all for I say it's diversion, because basically diversity and inclusion is a diversion from the real issues, right? Okay. Which is basically I don't want to be sitting on a board just because I'm a girl. No one's going to take me seriously. And I'm sure that you don't want to be chosen just for, all of the points that you get. I would like an equal shot, and I would like a real shot and I would like it to be included and an opportunity and equality of opportunity. But I don't want to be sitting there fucking singled out every day. That would be even worse, wouldn't it?
Well, one of the things that I find really fascinating, and why I like using Amanda Ripley as an example of representation done right, was you compare that to say, for example, Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel, boring as a brick. I'm sorry, it's just in your face.
It is
very much. I'm a woman. I'm a woman. I'm a woman. I'm a woman. These are the things you do to
girl
women.
power. Girl power. Girl power.
And it's you compare that to the first Aliens movie. They wrote the script without actually deciding the gender of who was going to be playing the character that ended up being Amanda Ripley. They wrote it without names, just character 1, character 2, character 3 kind of thing. They wrote it all out, and then they had people start auditioning for the parts. They ended up choosing her to be the character, at which point it got named Amanda. But everything was written to be whoever ended up getting that part. She got the
That's
part.
fantastic. Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just like, yes,
Mm.
that is right. They wrote a character. Like,
Yeah, and then what's your view on someone like, say, Scarlett Johansson playing a trans man and getting cancelled for it?
I don't care.
Right?
You're an actor. It's literally your
Yeah.
job to pretend to be things that you're not. Like,
Again, I think it comes back to the fact that I have seen this. I've literally seen this in my own kids, that they think movies are real life. I think CGI was the turning point where we could build whatever we wanted, any world we wanted, and at some point, imagination disappeared. And I know I sound old as fuck saying this, but I'm just saying, I do. I sit there and I go, there is some wisdom in age where you go, I can see where this turned, which is when kids were just sort of given the movie rather than making the movie in their head. And they were, you know what I mean? All of this, I don't know. I'm just wondering whether there's a psychological component to that, that being able to distinguish, and gaming as well, gaming becoming more realistic.
oh yeah.
You know, like where that simulations are more attractive than the real world, and that the real world doesn't do what you want it to do. So you can't, you know.
When I started gaming, when it got to the point that there were 8 colors on the screen, that was cutting edge graphics.
Yeah. I remember playing.
Like, oh my god! Like
the new Unreal Engine is incredible.
My sister and her partner just got like a VR headset, and I
Yeah.
tried that out a little bit ago, and it was just like, holy shit, this is what things are now. Like,
does it make you sick?
No.
And do you know why that is? Here's a fun fact. VR headsets, actually, because women have different neck muscles, like biological women, right?
Yeah.
I get sickness because our gait is different, right? And that sort of stuff. And there's a slight difference. So VR headsets are designed for male bodies. So women get motion sickness at higher rates than. So there you go.
Yeah, okay,
VR headsets are transphobic.
Well, my sister's partner is a guy, and he got incredibly sick when he played the game where you play as like a hawk and you like fly around.
Oh, I can't do it. I can't do it more than like a minute.
I had no problems with that. I absolutely loved it. It was so incredible. And then I crashed into a tree.
I tried playing Astrobot VR and Borderlands 2 VR. I couldn't do it. Maybe like I wanted to hurl within a minute. My son just plays. My son is a rec room troll. He goes in, he just makes fun of everybody and he's like such a 4chan kid.
Oh God.
Oh, no, but in the good kind. The good kind. Yeah. The honest, you know, like the well-raised person with a sense of humor, right? But he just goes in and just makes fun of them. It's funny.
Nice.
But yeah, anyway. But I love gaming. I will defend gaming gaming and comedy and the arts. I will defend till my dying breath against these fuckwits.
Oh,
because it's just anyway. Have we got
one thing? I haven't really talked about was how I ended up getting into these discussions.
Yes, we kind of wandered off into gaming. That's fine. That's all right. We got all the time in the world.
But basically for me, like when like I was basically back into the closet for a good like 5 years kind of thing, and it was just like, you know, like all the representation I could see was just all this madness, and it's like that can't be what it is for me. Like, even though everything says that it should be for me, it can't be that. And what really helped me was like I ended up eventually finding Blair White in Rose of Dawn, and those were my 2 examples where it was like, you know, you can do this and you can be sane, and you know, it's not all this madness. And that's what really brought me back around to the point where I could once again really consider it. And once I decided it was right for me, it was like when I was doxxed and getting threatened, and like it was, we're going to out you to work, we're going to out you to family. So it was like, well, you know what? I've outed myself to everyone now. Like
Yeah.
you've got nothing to hold over me. And there are so few voices out there that are, actually
Mm.
not part of this. Like there have to be other people like me who feel this way,
Mm.
and they don't have anyone to really look up to, kind of thing, or to just be
Mm.
someone like them with them. So it was like, well, while I'm going through this process, like I wanted, like, I've got severe social anxiety, so
Yeah.
I figured when I started transitioning that would probably get worse.
Mm.
So I wanted to try and confront that, but at the same time, I also wanted to, like, at least during the part where I'm going through the transition and I'm not going to be passing anyways, kind of thing. It's like, well, you know what? Why don't I start like making some videos, talking on Twitter, mostly just gonna like stream games and stuff. But like it can be someone out there putting out different opinions, and I didn't expect like I was completely shocked when I had hit my first 100 followers, kind of thing, and now I'm
Yeah.
closing in on 3,000. It's just like, what the hell? But like
That's
it,
good.
it it was very much the kind of thing where like I wanted to like deal with my own issues, but at the same time
Mm.
also like as much as I could, like, just be another voice out there for people who might be where I was 5 years ago, feeling completely alone. And it's like, hey, we can talk about some trans shit, we can play a bunch of video games, kind of thing. And then I just got completely dragged into the trans side of the conversation.
As you
Stop
do.
blaming you.
Yeah.
But it's like,
Yeah.
I would like nothing better, like in a year or two, get to passable and just like drop out, go stealth,
Mm.
and never talk about trans again. But at the same time, like the conversation is so completely and utterly insane. And there's so few people who actually dare to speak out against it. There's
Mm.
almost there's almost like this owing it to the world.
Yeah. I saw that conversation you had with Fionn
Yeah.
about the paradox of sort of HSTS and stealth, right? Which was
Yeah.
that most of the sanest trans people disappear. The idea is to then integrate and move on with your life and live your life, right?
Yeah.
But that was something that, can you talk a bit more about that, where, because having people role models is a challenge in your community, because those that pass tend to just go disappear and blend in, right? And get on with their lives. So
Well, it's like even like when I was getting involved in the community, like I said, like the more AGP unpassable brick types, they were the main voices. Like, like that,
sorry, unpassable brick made me laugh. Sorry.
like that's
I'm gonna get in
all
trouble.
that's all you see. And like the,
Yeah.
the actually, this is something I've mentioned before, but like when I first came out as trans, like my brother is gay and he's got a friend who's FTM, so he ended up putting me in contact with him, and like we all had like separate conversations, but I basically got the same advice from my brother and his FTM friend. They didn't know that I'd been involved in the community before in any way, kind of thing. So they gave me the advice of the community can be a good place to find some resources, and you can get some advice and stuff while you're still trying to figure yourself out. But as soon as possible, get yourself sorted and get out, get back to real life. Because basically,
Because the activists are crazy.
they both had the same generalized description. And that is, most normal people when they come through the community, they figure themselves out. And then they've got family, they've got work, they've got friends, they've got all these other things to take their time, and they've got other community. So once they've figured their shit out, they leave the community and go back to being just a normal person. They just passed through, picked up what they needed, and went on with their life. They didn't have to deal with all the bullshit generally. They got what they needed and they got out. They went back to normal life. But the problem is, what ends up happening is it means the community ends up being filled entirely by activists and people who don't have anything to go back to, or have too many mental issues to be able to integrate into society.
Yeah, I've worked with activists like in my life as well, and there is a specific type. There's a certain mindset that needs to go with activism.
It's a little
right?
bit.
Is that to have that? I mean, as an autistic spectrum person, it's a fixation, right? It is, and so it will attract something. To be an activist, you do need to be a little bit fixated on one issue all the time, and sort of like a dog with a bone, right? And that's not necessarily the most healthy or balanced.
Oh no!
It doesn't attract the most healthy. I've met them, right? People, the purity fucking people, right? They're just in every movement. We were talking about them before. There's in the feminists, all of them. There's people that are just. I don't know how they can do it. I've only just been interested in it because I'm interested in politics, and it was my degree and stuff. That's and I can explain the theory, not the activism part. I leave to other people because I'm just like, I run out of energy, and I've got too much going on. Right, I've got shit to do. But I think that people do find a sense of community and belonging in activist circles, and I think that it can be unhealthy.
It ends up becoming
many
their
situations.
identity.
Yeah.
It's not, I am a person who's interested in these things and also passionate about this. It's, I am an activist.
This is the only thing, and it is the most important thing, and I am not budging. And they have a role to play.
Oh, definitely.
In a democracy, I see, that's the thing. There's nothing I love more than a dinner table filled with people on opposite ends of a conversation, and everyone having a loud disagreement. Or playing Munchkin together, or something like that, right? Doing something crazy, and just talking shit, right? Because that actually reminds you how similar we all are. Really, we all just want to be able to talk about fucking games, like you and me. Just we forgot Syreyne was trans for half an hour. It's possible to do. It's totally possible.
That's something I find fascinating. Like in a lot of like the MMOs and stuff I play, there will be, like the LGBTQIA clans and stuff like that. And meanwhile, like the group I joined is literally no religion, no politics, no drama allowed in chat ever.
Good on them. Yeah.
If you're in chat, it is about the game and only the game. Real life not allowed. And it's like, yes. Like,
thank you. Yeah. I love that though. I love that you have to. Yeah, I love this tribal shit. It fascinates me. Because I've been all across the 4chan v Tumblr long-range tribal war of decades long. This has been a long-range war that people don't realize has been going on forever. This is it's something for the history books, and they see the symptoms of it and they go, well, that's a bit fucking weird. And then I make videos going, this is why it's weird. This is what's happening. And I go, because Tumblr had a baby with gender studies and 4chan decided to make fun of them all. And they've been at war ever since Usenet. This has been a war of fucking ages, and I love being a historian about this. It's the most interesting thing you could ever witness unfolding.
And somehow nowadays we've got to the point where This means I'm a Nazi, and
Ugh.
this means I'm a
Pepe the
transphobe.
Frog.
The actual
And then you end up with fucking Chaz in the
Oh.
real world, and you have to explain to people, like sitting there explaining to the ordinary confused person what the fuck is happening with Chaz. And you go, this is basically what happened, like, it's been happening and brewing for years and years and years.
Oh, yeah.
And these kids think they can run the world, and it's the funniest fucking thing. Did you see the bag of Sprite thing?
I've been avoiding most of that stuff, but I've picked up on a
The
little
Chaz
bit
is
here and there.
I want one in every. Do you know what I've decided? Like, because of COVID-19, a lot of the zoos are struggling financially. So what we need to do is put like 4K cameras around all of the zoos with web streaming cameras, move all of the fucking SJWs into the zoos with the animals, right? They can be autonomous zones for everybody.
Yeah, but the problem...
And we can live stream all of it. Could you imagine the mashups? Worldwide, YouTube streaming Global Chaz reality show 24/7. And you could just switch and watch them try to create their society. I would love it. It's great.
The sad
I'm
reality
libertarian.
is,
I love it.
There's like people being sexually assaulted, literally physically assaulted.
I know.
People ending up dead. And there is
But
no
this is the
meaning.
thing.
Like, these people can just abuse people under the guise of being part of this revolution.
You make me look like an asshole now. Thanks, right? I was laughing at their stupidity because it is actually underneath horrifying.
It's hideously tragic. Like,
and I laugh at things that are dark. I can't
and like during these riots, like when they've gone into police stations and started like vandalizing things, that's thousands of like rape test kits and all this evidence and everything else that is now contaminated. That's so many people who will never ever be able to get justice. And it's like, how can anyone look at this and say it's a good thing?
Rain ruined my joke.
I'm sorry. Like, obviously, with in the conversations I'm in, these are the kind of things that I end up thinking about. And it's just like, oh, this is so tragic.
I think, and you're probably like me as well, which is that sometimes things are so dark that your only option is to make fun of it. Otherwise, you just get. I channel my anger into jokes. This is one of those things. But yes, that is that. Like. Do you know what? I still don't know where the adults are. Like, I know that I'm 41 and technically an adult, but I'm not one. Like, where are the trained adults telling these people to go away? This is what I don't get. How did it get to this point? Was it that normies didn't know what they were dealing with?
Let's put it this way. I'm 34. I have no idea how to adult. But at least I can fall back on the whole defense of, like, I was literally raised in a cult. Like, I was expecting people to be running around with marks on their hands and me out in the bush with a rifle trying to stay away until the rapture. Like,
you just remind me of on South Park for homeschool kids. The homeschool kids on South Park. Remember how they were always creepy looking out the window? Did you see that?
Yeah.
My son actually also has anxiety and is homeschooled for social anxiety. So, like, I get that. But, yeah, it's like, fucking hell.
Oh.
That's the thing. We have excuses. And we're sitting there going, like, where's all of the neurotypical grown-ups? And stuff. It's like, or maybe the lesson to have here is that maybe there were never any grown-ups. We just had I don't know. Maybe they were, and they didn't know what they were doing either, and it was just all of that, just crazy human petri dish of fucking weird shit. That maybe it was always like this. Maybe the world's always been insane.
I think adults are just better at feigning confidence.
I reckon. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I realised that I'm the age that my mum was when I thought she had it together, and it's like I know, like, no, we'd never do. We never actually have any clue.
Oh,
And
no.
I'm pretty functioning, but like, Jesus Christ. But no, but at some point, who's going to stand up to them?
Yeah.
It's amazing. That said, I do think I have, like the twitched larper, right? The
Oh,
deer.
dear. Oh my God, no.
I have a hypothesis that what you do is, that you put people front and center. If you want to kill something, right, and like the diversity and inclusions, not kill the person, but I'm
Oh,
saying kill an idea, right?
yeah.
They realize that they've been captured. What do? You put you political move. What you would do is put the craziest representative of that movement in front and center,
Oh,
so
definitely.
that but the problem is that it takes like sane trans people who are in very much need of care and all of these things with it. And that's, I think you talked about that as well, the backlash
Oh, yeah.
stuff. That's my concern as well, is the backlash, right?
Yeah. And
Is that your worry as well?
yeah, I could see it going pretty badly. Like, how many, like, let's just say, like, eventually the whole trans thing loses the media positivity towards it. How many stories of Yanives or child molesters or rapists do you think they have to put front and center 16 hours a day before the, like, I grew up very much like with that whole Christian cult thing. Like, my perception was, like, anyone who's like gay or gender non-conforming or anything like that is nothing more than a sexual fetishist, a pervert, probably a pedophile. Like, how long do they have to change that news coverage and start pumping that out to people before that becomes the general public perception again? Like,
Yeah, that's my concern as well, is that it is just I know that people call it the regressive left, and it is. It's absolutely regressive. Like the movement, it's winding back everything, that any progress that has been made. I'm hoping that there's a net gain. Like I think we're seeing a lot of laws clarified that seem to be sort of correcting, like in the UK and stuff.
yeah.
Like, is that happening? I haven't actually kept up with Canada. The C16 and there's still, yeah. Okay.
Business as usual over here.
Yeah. Okay.
We've got
Because I know in the
got
UK
Prime
and US.
Minister blackface at the moment, so he can't afford to step out of line lest he get lynched.
How is that a thing? How does nobody sit there and you go, like, how am I a racist? And yet I've done no blackface.
I've never.
And yet he's your hero. I don't understand. How do the dissonance that is, how does your brain work?
Because he's the one putting into place the right policies. I
know, but
you, as long as he continues dancing to the proper tune,
yeah.
basically
If he repeals C16, the blackface will come out, right?
Everything will come out the moment he steps wrong. Right now, he's a useful tool.
He's a male feminist.
God.
What does
that even mean nowadays?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just an old feminist who thought that feminism was about women and women's interests. And I thought that, it was okay to have a nuanced view on pornography, and it was okay to still think that you could try to make those that choose sex work be safe. And if there's a market for it, let the market decide, but not ignore the problem of violence completely. Like this, it's like, is it okay to have multiple complex views on things? Like,
I'm just going to say, at the point where a man can call himself a feminist, and yet when they go to visit a mosque, have all of his female cabinet members have to sit in the segregated women's section.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sort of
Yep.
starting to wonder about your credentials there, buddy.
Yeah. Oh no, my favorite thing is men telling me that they're a real feminist, and I unfriended someone recently because he just kept trying to explain feminism to me,
Oh.
and he's telling me that he's like, it's like, you're a fuckwit, don't fuck off. You're like, like I'm of the view that I'm generally inclusive in my thought. It's like, but I'm very much about definitions. So like for me, I go, well, feminism isn't a club. It's a school of thought, and it's female centered. And yes, there is the trans discussion is an important conversation to have about what is a woman, and allies and all that sort of. You know what I mean? Like it's okay to have a complicated view of these things, right? It's like, why do I have to have a single view? I think the second that you, quoting Billy Connolly again, I've quoted him a few times, never trust anyone who's only read one book. And that applies to anything. That applies to politics as much as it does religion, right? And it's like, if you've only got one, if you think that Marx is the only answer or anything is the only answer, then you're not well read. You don't understand that there's a lot of, we could read there's a new theory for everything. There's a new way to look at everything. Anyway, so I went off on a tangent, but it's like, it's okay to be fucking hell. There's not one feminism. It's not yours. It's not your club. It's not a Facebook group that you can invite people and kick them out. You fuckwit.
One thing I've actually seen that's gone on a lot that has been coming up again in regards to like words and definitions and the semantics around it is the whole argument on like what's the sexuality of someone who's with a trans person. And it's like,
yeah.
I saw one post and it's like, is it even
how do we categorize you?
Is it even possible for a heterosexual and a homosexual to be in a consenting relationship? And it's like, I'm homosexual. I'm a male who likes males. The one group that I have almost no chance of attracting as a partner? Homosexuals. You know what?
Yeah.
Gay guys aren't into breasts and no dick. I'm not going to be attracting gay guys.
Some things are just settled.
Again, we're a weird little gray area. I'm homosexual, but whoever's going to be into me isn't going to be homosexual. They're going to be straight or they're going to be bisexual.
But I just go the other way. And I think maybe this is where categorization is useful. Taxonomy is important in a scholarly setting. But at an individual level, who cares? It's up to that individual. It depends. It matters for the purposes of law and protected classes and like ironing out that stuff. But if you're sitting around, I just sit there and I go, everybody's got that person in a meeting, right, where the meeting is over and they go, I have a question. Can we debate this thing for this one detail for 3 hours? And everyone goes, oh, for fuck's sake, I want to go piss.
Yeah.
And but they're those people. They're the people, they're just derailers. And it's like, nobody was asked going to talk about, no one cares. You do what you want to do. For the purposes of this debate, this is what we're talking about, gender and stuff. But if you're sitting there categorizing people for a hobby, you need a better hobby. It doesn't matter. And if you're sitting there constantly thinking about who you are and what you are and your labels, I think maybe I tend to be more like, you need a stronger sense of, it's not just, maybe look outward.
There's a reason on my bio it says label free. I try to subscribe to labels. There are descriptors that I can find useful for finding other people who may have similar experiences.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
none of those descriptors tell me what I should do with my life or with myself. They are
Yeah.
descriptions of what I am that I use to find other people, and that's all.
Mm. Yeah.
There's no dogma or anything like that that comes
Yeah.
attached to them. I don't have to think a different way simply because I'm homosexual. I don't have to believe any particular thing because I'm trans. Those are descriptors of
Yeah.
things I am and things I'm doing. They tell nothing more about me than that I am those things, but
It gives a
that's it.
signal to other people to sort of maybe. The way I can liken it is like with being categorized as ADHD or categorized as autistic, or
Yeah.
for me, right? That provides a framework for people. I don't use it as an identity. I don't give a fuck, right? I'm just Taya. But what it does is if I interrupt you, or if I talk over you, or if I fucking talk shit, or if I'm impulsive or get distracted by chat, it helps other people understand me a little bit better. It helps me understand. It gives me something, like it sounds with marks. It
Yeah.
gives you a useful framework in which to build on. It doesn't define you.
Yeah.
It's not a model. It's like it's descriptive, not proscriptive.
Yeah.
It's like I don't have to be, like rocking back and forth. Fucking, it's like it's no. If I talk too much, it's because I'm ADD as fuck. I don't pay, like that helps other people.
It's like
It
even with
doesn't. It's not my
myself, like
identity.
my psychiatrist, like when I finally got to the point of dealing with one, at one point he ended up basically just straight up telling me, like, I'm pretty sure you're some kind of high functioning autistic, but by this point in your life, you've developed enough coping strategies and you've
Yeah.
adapted well enough. There's not really any point trying to create like an actual formal
Yeah.
diagnosis for this. So if there's something you're having an issue with, we'll work on that. But this is
Yeah.
what you are, but that's it. And it's like it helped make a lot of things about myself suddenly make sense. But
Yeah.
anyone who like reads up on autism or something like that, they're going to be expecting me to be a lot of things that I'm just not. And it's like
Yeah.
I've got like I'm 34 now. Like I've been living my life as a normal person as I can for most of my life. Like a lot of that stuff just doesn't apply to me. I've learned to control
Yeah.
things. I've learned to not let things affect me as strongly. I've learned to cope. I've adjusted. And yeah, there will be some weird little things where it's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that person is
Yeah.
autistic. But as a
Yeah, for me,
general
it's like
rule,
sensory things. Yeah, like
yeah,
when I can't stand the
sensory
supermarket on the
overload. Oh
weekends
my
because
god.
yeah, like the supermarket. I used to have like massive. I used to have just lose my temper at midday on a Saturday every week, and I couldn't figure out why. I'd just be in a bad mood, and I just used to realize that I was going to the shopping centre in the morning at the busiest time. And then I stopped doing that and I started shopping during the week, and it wasn't so bad. And I'm chill. It was sensory. I didn't a sensory overload thing where I would just explode, and it was just it was like that helps me to understand the framework of autism, right?
Yeah.
This is what happens when you give dumb people frameworks, I think, is that they take them literally. No, it's true. It's like
They're
this is
descriptive, not proscriptive, darling.
yeah, exactly. And
But
it's like, yeah, it's crazy, But I think if people were more just, what I find funny is the most inclusive, flexible, gender fluid people in the world are the most rigid in terms of categorization. Like my answer to any politics is it depends. We need to try and have laws, but the laws exist, but the law evolves. You have test cases all the time. Test case, test case, test case, because even the law says it depends on this case, and we're going to rule on it because we don't know. That's how the law works.
oh, definitely.
It's like, fucking hell. My answer is it depends on the circumstances and the evidence in front of me at the time. I will apply XYZ framework. And it's like all this fucking obsession with categorization. One day I'm just going to sit down and do all of my identity markers just for fun.
Oh God, I could write an
Because I'm a
essay.
gypsy. I'm a gypsy. Apparently, I found out that I'm a non-black POC. That made me fucking laugh.
Oh wow.
Well, because I'm Romani,
Yeah.
right? Gypsy heritage. So it's like, well, can I claim that now?
Well, my dad had no idea who his actual dad was, so who knows? I might be black.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Oh my God. Trans black. Oh my goodness. Lottery.
Oh yeah, like I can't even go out in the sun and actually get a tan. I just burn. So
Yeah. No, you're white.
I'm just gonna say, if that turned out to be true, I got screwed.
Yeah, donate this. Everyone on my grandmother's side doesn't have the button nose. They have the Romani nose. I just got the English nose.
Oh no.
But I know I'm lucky, but I'm saying the rest of me is gypsy, and I'm
Right.
saying gypsy because gypsy is fine.
Hell yeah.
Anyway.
You do you,
Oh.
darling.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so
Hey,
we've
to be
gone for an
fair-
hour and 45. That's crazy. That's
be
quite a
fair,
while.
I
Yeah.
put my pronouns as TRA/NNY.
If I use that word, I'm going to get like, I'm already in trouble. But I think, look, do you know what? The thing that I want this show podcast to be is to show people that we actually just have a fucking conversation and disagree. We don't disagree. We just find things in common.
Oh hell yeah.
That's the thing. It's not to actually focus on the disagreements and the differences, but to focus on the things that we agree on and have in common and can find common ground on. That's something that, like I find it's almost like it's a crazy, that's considered whitewashing or some bullshit. But it's like, no, that's just called getting along with other people. And like, fuck me.
I'm quite certain that simply by having a chat with you, I've probably gained a few labels. Oh no, wait, I've already collected all of them. So
I don't
you've probably
care.
collected a few new labels by having a conversation with me. But
So am I an ally or not? I thought that I was, and I always have been, and I've been defending, your community since the adopt. And I see the invasion that's happening across multiple different communities, and they're basically just fucking LARPers that are like pushing everything back.
I would never do anyone the disservice of calling them an ally. Not nowadays.
Well, okay. Anyway, how about I just say that we are friends?
We can be grown-ass adults with our own interests, get along and support each other. None of this allyship bullshit where it's like,
it's another label.
You have to believe what you're told to believe and basically be a friggin' servant to an ideology.
Yeah. And also just say the right things, and for me, It's like someone asked me yesterday in a video, and it's, nothing against that person. It was just, they're like, oh, so as a George Carlin fan, would you consider yourself GC feminist? And I was like, they're not related.
No, really not.
And but the thing is, on individual issues at different times, depending on, one of the funniest things that I do, that my husband will tell you that I do, is that I will say something out loud and then immediately disagree with it. Out loud. And I will go, okay, those two things that seem to be true to me, given the moving tide, and that's okay too. It's okay to have competing thoughts, depending on the fucking situation. Like, if I encountered the person that crashed the feed for you the other day, we would have a very different conversation. I would double down on the TERF shit, right? And I would say, because we shift and mold depending on our environment, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially autistic people, we kind of adapt. We're chameleons.
For myself, in a single sitting, I can both say trans women are not women. Yeah. And I can also say trans women are women.
Yeah.
It's entirely contextual. It's entirely based on what you're actually trying to say. If we're talking about literally biologically female women, well, fuck no,
Mm.
obviously not.
Yeah.
Like, I've got 33
Yeah.
years living as a guy, whether that, was in any way comfortable for me or not. Like, I've still picked up some
Mm.
shit that someone who's grown up as a woman will never have picked up.
Mm.
But at the same time, if we're talking about like how people are perceived and treated in society and so on, I can
Mm.
agree that there are some trans women who are socially women.
Yeah.
Like, that's the entire idea of stealth transsexuals, is to never have to say that they're trans. Like, no
Yeah.
one should ever know. Like,
It's almost like these are complicated issues, and that 280 characters isn't enough.
the new
I mean,
N-word of the internet, the new
fuck
N-word
me.
is nuance.
Oh god.
As soon as you say that, you are a terrible person to everyone.
Yeah. I do get annoyed though, because I do find that the logic and nuance bros are just as bad as,
Oh,
I mean, they're just as tribal, and they use like their logic dick is what I like to call it. And it's basically like, and then they derail in a different way,
oh, definitely.
which is, yeah, it's a different derailment on the IDW and those people's side, which is that they pretend that they know everything about everything and they are the answers and everything logical is correct. It's
I
like, well,
call it
no.
mental masturbation.
Exactly. Yeah, I know it. I've actually said that the answer to the answer to the idiots on the left is not the idiots on the right. It's not be an idiot.
Really, the internet is just full of way too many people sitting there going, "Oh, look at how smart I am." Oh,
I know, right? Oh, no. It's almost, it's almost like 7 billion individuals with different thoughts is hard to organize.
oh, just
It's
a little.
almost like that's hard. It's almost like there's no rules for things like that, and that individualism is the only answer in that case. Individual freedom and freedom of speech it has to happen, right? Put tools in place to make sure that people can stay as safe as possible with, like, user driven, so block,
Yeah,
all those sorts of things. Have laws in place for harassment, stalking, doxing, dogpiling, those sorts of things, right?
yeah.
And let them go.
Mhm.
Oh, fuck me. Stop categorizing people. This is my friend, Syreyne.
Oh, thank you.
No, you get what I'm saying, right? I'm not an ally. We're just friends. Ally sounds like it's like, no, I'm not an ally. I've got lots of different friends, and we all talk about different stuff.
And the best part is,
So,
friends don't have to
yeah,
agree on everything.
no. In fact, I had my friend call me a cunt, like, about not long ago, because I know we say cunt in Australia with
Oh,
abandon. It's
right,
fine.
yeah.
And we're like, you're a cunt. And because we were playing Munchkin and I fucked him over, and, like, we're playing a board game, he was like, you cunt. That's how we play. Anyway,
Yeah, I have actually played, so it's understandable.
I love that game, man. It's amazing. It can take such a turn super fast.
Oh, yeah.
I love it, yeah.
Can get
Anyway,
the world to oh fuck.
yeah, yeah. Oh, God. Cancel Magic the Gathering. Anyway. It was lovely to talk to you.
You as well.
I'm tired. I need another coffee. We didn't really cover too much, but I just, come back. Let's do another one
Oh, that would be awesome. I love talking with
sometime.
you. That was
Yeah, that's
enjoyable.
great. And do check out Syreyne's channel, and because there's some really interesting conversations there. And also, she's tweeted a video where someone crashed a stream calling her a TERF and a bigot Nazi. That was pretty fucking. It was horrifying but funny, and you maintained your
Oh,
composure.
it,
And
it,
your co-hosts barely contained theirs.
it wasn't even a crash. The person was a surprise guest who is someone who is going to
Ah,
become the third co-host on the
yeah.
show. So, yeah, that's actually the kind of person that they want to have associated with their show. So,
Yeah. Well, I'm of the view that all voices should be heard, and the more that are heard, the better. Because I do, and this applies to the right as well. Like all the Nazis and everything. Yes, we need to hear it because it needs to be seen. It needs to be seen to be ridiculous. You know what I mean? All of those things. The ridiculous and reasonable people can just get on with the job of
Let
being reasonable.
crazy fly high, and everyone will see
Mm.
it and keep well
Yeah.
away from whatever hill that flag is flying on.
Yeah. But also make sure that we stay focused on the issues of trans healthcare and ironing out some of these problems, ironing out some of these political problems that I truly believe that, feminists and trans activists, if there's enough of us, we can come up with solutions. I see these as, that everyone can live with, right?
Oh, definitely.
And let's just hang out with our friends and, anyway. Anyway, I have no conclusion for this. It was lovely to talk to you. Thank you, Syreyne.
Oh,
Follow,
thank you.
like, subscribe, all that stuff. Stay sane. You're fighting the good fight. And thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, bye.